This is Brain Software episode 188. Keep watching because we'll be talking all about what is possibly the most awesome filter to help you live a better life. But before we begin, I think we need the disclaimer.
Yeah, warning in that 20% of the following podcasts will help you understand the other 80%, or 80% of what's coming up is less awesome, the other 20% or something like that, and that.
Welcome to Brain Software Podcast 188. As I said, we're coming to you from the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. I'm Chris Thompson, but about 20% of the time, I answer to Fritz. And today, we're talking about the power of the Pareto principle. People call it the 80-20 principle. This is going to rock, so let's get the party started.
Hey man, what's happening, Scro? There's so much going down and I'm right in the middle of it, man. I'm sitting here in a pup tent, smack in the middle of Rendlesham Forest, watching the sky for disc-shaped signs of the end. Aliens and such, Scro. The Wolfman candle's burning, and there's goofer dust around the perimeter of my camp. Things are weird, and yet, I gotta ask you something, dude. Question is, why did the internationally acclaimed particle physicist cross the road? Because he was stoned out of his gourd, man.
These are days of victory. So let's say goodbye to all that tranquility that we no longer need. And welcome to the center of the Goofer Dust Circle, a man who is no stranger to rainy weather. A man who's a confirmed allurophile. And the living answer to that unasked hypnosis question, Mike Mandel, everybody.
Yes, Chris, coming in from above today.
Above, that's
kind
true.
of interesting, like just
Yeah.
diving down like Jack the frickin' down
When
diver.
you say coming in from above, I was thinking like north and south, and the fact that you're no longer coming in from your cabin
Well, that's
to
true,
the
isn't it?
studio. You're
That's
back
true.
in Toronto now.
Back at the Hypnotic World Epicenter
Yeah.
after 3 months up north, so
Yes,
this is good.
Absolutely. And I get to ring the bell because I said absolutely. All right, so today's going to be a
You know,
really
if you
fun
connected
episode.
this to an electric circuit
I could get a shot.
and clipped it onto your
we
testicles,
could run some Milgram
yeah, I tell you, I
experiments.
guarantee you'd stop doing it really quick after
Okay.
the first tap.
Yeah, all right. Here
All
we
right.
go. In case anyone is wondering and watching watching on YouTube, you just got that. If you're listening, then
There's a bell here.
Yeah, horrible. All right. Let's do the 3 think tank words.
Yes.
And remind everybody these 3 words are here, you explain it.
The 3 think tank words are generated randomly through a random word generator. Typically, I use Savo Bukacek's actual think tank, but because of being up at the cabin, I've had to go online and use a random word generator. But they are still as random
We don't
as
need
the
a Ken
renderer could
Stratton
make
story
them.
about it.
Okay, I didn't ask for your life story. Yeah.
Look at you just zooming in the zoom
I
ring
know,
on the
I'm
iPad.
making sure I can see
you
in the
know, I just
scenery. There we are.
bring you a fake commercial break here while Mike fixes his iPad
Give
so
us
that we
the-
can
give us the
actually
think
record
tank
this
words,
show.
Steve.
All right, so think tank words, the whole point of them is to see how we can randomly and unconsciously connect them to the content of what we're actually talking about today.
Exercise in pattern recognition.
Yes, it's a fun thing. So we'll see how it works. The first word, and these will show up on the screen here, employer.
Oh, that would be me, and that's why you're fired again.
We're fine.
Oh, we have
Employer,
such fun.
Yeah, exactly. So your employer. Well, guess what? This is employer in my mind. I start thinking about, well, it's actually something where people perceive that someone holds power over them. But the
Oh, that's
reality is
interesting.
you have to think of employee-employer relationship as a two-way street. And
Yes.
an employee can decide to fire his employer and no longer work for a
Well, yeah,
crappy
especially if
employer.
they're doing these bizarre incentives. Like, you know, you get points, employee points with certain organizations for doing certain things, certain kinds of compliance. Like if you clean up the coffee area, you get 2 points. If you freshen the washroom.
Where does this happen?
Oh, just different places I've worked when I've been
Weird.
doing keynotes. You freshen the washroom, you get 3 points. And walking to
what
work.
if you defresh in the washroom?
Walking to work instead of driving,
Oh.
you get 5 points.
There we go.
And then, but then you look, you go, okay, I've got 60 points now. Well, you can buy, you know, a company T-shirt,
Oh, that's amazing.
and it's only 10,000 points. It's
Yeah,
that
which you
kind
can
of
use, which you
employer
can
I
use
don't
when
like.
you're freshening the washroom. All right, so
Yes.
employer, yes. Then what does it connect to for you, employer? you
Again,
haven't had one forever.
Well, that's it. It's a memory of how much better it is that I'm self-employed and calling the shots for myself, largely apart from your complaints. But instead of working for
There are
Bell
numerous
Canada and the
complaints.
federal government I used to work for too, which you don't even know about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. So chemistry. What about chemistry?
Well, actually, you know what? That's what everyone tells us when they watch us work together on camera and teach classes and stuff. They go, man, how did you guys figure out like this combination? It's great. And yeah, it is a really important force that we're not doing something alone. That's what I think about chemistry. I think about Mike and I think about brain software. I think about architecture of hypnosis. I think about the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, all the stuff that we do. And we've made fun being a number one priority above money or whatever, and it makes our life better. It's awesome. So if it makes me think, don't go it alone. If you don't have to, don't go it alone.
That's right. And also the chemistry of, teaching and things like that. We discovered by doing the live classes with our architecture of hypnosis in Toronto, there was a chemistry to doing it a certain way. So people came in, they were always in the zone. We had the music playing in the mornings and that there can be a group chemistry.
Friday
it's
lunch,
not all about nitrogen triiodide and contact explosives.
That's right. The other thing I think about with chemistry is how quickly things can rearrange.
But don't do that. Please don't do them that way. Do them that way.
Well,
That's
how
better.
quickly things can rearrange, form new bonds that are even, of course, stronger than the old, right? Chemical reactions tend to go
covalent bonds?
to more
metallic
stability.
Bonds? Are we saying
whatever, whichever one you want.
Ionic
but basically,
bonds?
things move from less stable to more stable in chemistry. So what can you do if we think about our lives? How can we make our life move from something that isn't so great to something that's awesome and very stable?
Well, that's good, Hector Lavoisier.
Third word.
The last one is disease.
Disease, which is dis-ease.
Thank you, Tad James. That's how Tad James always said it. Dis-ease. And he did it that way on purpose to show that it was the losing of
That's
ease.
literally, yeah.
And,
things are better when they're easy. Just ease into things.
Okay, so let's get on to the actual content. It sounds just obscene.
All right, so let's start the show. Today, we're talking about the Pareto principle. Now, full disclosure, this podcast is a bad example of the Pareto principle because basically, here's the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle is otherwise known as the 80-20 rule, and it says that, like some classic examples, so 20% of the roads, I made some notes here, will carry like 80% of the traffic.
Right.
20% of a business's customers bring in about 80% of the sales. Maybe 20% of our time gives us 80% of the output, the useful output.
Right.
Obviously, if you listen to this podcast long enough, you'll realize that there's a 80% filler, 20% value, but that 20% can change your life. And today, we're going to talk all about how you can use the Pareto principle as, in my opinion, the most awesome filter for an awesome life.
That's good. And it becomes a foundation, a way of looking at things in a useful way.
Exactly. Now, I learned about this principle back in around 2008. Tim Ferriss wrote a wonderful book called The 4-Hour Workweek, and he talked a lot about the Pareto principle. That's how I was introduced to it. And it's come up over the years so many times and been such a useful exercise to apply it to different areas of life, relationships, businesses, money, investing, health, and wealth, whatever it is. It's been a fantastic thing. Now, acknowledgement, the concept came from the author Richard Koch. He actually wrote a book on it.
Pareto was the guy's name.
The book was actually, yeah, you're right. Obviously, the Pareto principle was Pareto.
Yeah.
And then Richard Koch wrote a book about it. So that's the original literature on this really comes out of Richard Koch. And I have it on Audible, which I love.
Nice.
Fantastic book. Highly recommend it. Then I also want to say there's a great book by Perry Marshall that's called 80-20 Sales and Marketing. So it's basically applying the Pareto principle to sales and marketing. Perry Marshall's book is fantastic.
Now, this is interesting, Chris. Like you've already given a few places that you can find out more about this. And this to me indicates the universality of the concept. It is startling when you start to recognize it really is everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yeah. And that's why I started with these examples of roads carrying traffic, businesses and customers, and our time and where we place our energy. But the same is true for waste. So the 80-20 principle very much applies, in my opinion, to how we waste time. So you can start asking yourself questions like, what are the 20% of the things in my life that cause me 80% of the waste, the uselessness? And so a lot of people, in fact, we send out an email to our email list, 50,000 of our closest friends, right? And asked for some feedback. And people were saying stuff like, I've got way too many clothes in my closet. I only wear like 20% of the clothing that I wear. So it really does apply everywhere. And you realize if you take that 80% of the crap you haven't worn in, say, 6 months and donate it, you'll just have a more empty closet, I suppose.
So.
you'll
and then
feel,
somebody else can get
your
rid of
life will feel less
that.
cluttered.
Now, this is interesting, though, because can we then extrapolate upon this? Notice I'm actually being serious now, because we had a false start to this podcast. He was all pissed off with me. So we started again. What I'm wondering is, can we then say and infer that 80% of discussion about the Pareto principle is a waste of time?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I think we pretty well covered it.
I think if you're making a very good point, if you think about any conversation you have on almost any topic, well, what was the point of it? If it was truly information, then it was probably 80-20. 20% of that was useful. The other 80% was filler. Just like almost every conversation, every video you ever watch, every book you ever read.
Well, I was going to say that the book one is a real obvious one to me.
But
and music, you'll have your music collection, 20% of the time you're listening to the same freaking songs. 20% of your collection, 80% of the time
80% of your listening, which is actually why I like some of the random music generation from things like Apple Music. And I don't use Spotify for music, but I'm sure it has a similar feature where you pick a song and you say, give me songs that are like this. And now you're getting variety. It's very interesting.
Now that's good, because then you could actually, since you've shown me that you can do an Apple playlist and share it, as I did with my awesome piano
playlist.
Does that mean we could make one called Pareto Principle, and we could put 20% good songs, and we could make sure 80% is absolute crap, just to prove the point?
Yeah. Now
things like kung fu fighting.
You brought up a serious point. It's a good point that in any conversation, 20% of it is useful, 80% of it may be waste and filler, except when the purpose of it is entertainment, right? But I suppose even then, like if you're just talking for the sake of connecting with people and having a good time, that's fine. But still, if you think back to like all the what we call jackassery, when I was hanging out at your cabin on that weekend, we spent 2 nights just chilling and campfires and laughing.
A lot of me trying to get you to stop shouting.
And if you think back, there's probably 20% that was the most fun and hilarious, and then there was still 80% that was moderately mediocre fun, which is still pretty high.
Well, then how far does this work? I mean, is there some sort of logarithmical understanding of this? So can we say 20%? Can you then say that 20% of that?
Yes.
Thank you. Recursively. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. And I think recursive is probably the right phrase here. So yes, in fact, when I was just reviewing, I was reviewing the intro written by Richard Koch to Perry Marshall's book, 80-20 Sales and Marketing, that I mentioned.
Pareto,
and he was mentioning this, like you've got 20% of the roads carry 80% of the traffic. But if you take the 20% of that 20%, you probably have something like, what is it? So 4% of the roads carry 64% of the traffic. And at some point it breaks down, and there's obviously like, if you apply this to your life and you fix a problem by doing an 80-20, you don't need to recursively 80-20 it again and again. There's a point where
when it's no longer useful or
only
interesting.
20% of the cases will you need to apply it recursively. The other 80% you don't need to. So
that's good. That's a very good point. But it's a startling little thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, what if you take to something like, blood donation? I'm not talking about Dracula, but I was a blood donor.
Is so weird.
I was a blood donor for years. I'm A positive, and low stomach acid for that reason. Can't digest all the protein that you do. But the thing is, does that mean that 20% of blood donors, their blood's used by 80% of the?
Maybe 80% of the blood donations come from 20% of the population. Maybe that would be it, because I've never donated blood. I guess I'm selfish. I don't know. I should probably do that. Blood.
So can we say that 20% of the Dracula films result in 80% of the vampires?
Or the enjoyment. 20% of all movies are probably responsible for 80% of income in the box office. There you go. So, we could talk about examples forever, but what I thought would be useful is, what if we start thinking about and discussing for the rest of this episode where this has applied in our own lives? Because, as we go through our personal development academy and we restructured all of the things, we're redeveloping Personal Development Academy version 2.0, coming sometime in the next
to a theater
6 years.
To a Vampire Grave near you. Yeah.
But we came up with all these different avenues where personal development skills apply to your life. Where do personal development, the central thesis we had, and this was your statement that you got from I can't remember who, but the idea was everyone wants to feel better, right?
Yep.
Everyone wants to live
It
a
was
better
Robbins.
life. Yeah. How do you
Robbins,
know?
yeah.
Tony Robbins. There you
Everybody
go.
wants to feel better.
So feel better. Basically, if you had more money, you feel better. If your health is better, you feel better. If you are happier in a relationship, you feel better. If you have a more enjoyable job, you feel better.
If you're aching pain-free, you feel better.
If you
like
stop
birds
talking
and there's
about
a lot there,
nonsense,
you feel
better. Okay, so
20% of those were probably useful.
right. So when we think about it, how do you feel better? Well, these feel better moments apply to all the major areas of your life, right? So we've got like your work situation, your relationships, your health and fitness, your recreation, and your money/wealth. And we debated whether or not your time counts as an area, but not really.
It's hard to say. You know, like the whole time thing is...
I don't think, we decided it doesn't count as a category because time is a universal concept. We all have exactly as much time as we have. We all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Well, unless we move it near light speed.
Time is something that we can choose to invest in things, right? And if you don't invest it, you lose it. So you are investing in either something useful or you're burning it. Right? I mean, if you think about it, like imagine that time was 24 $1 bills, and every hour you've either got to use it to buy something that's useful in your life, or you light it on fire and it's gone because you've
time.
done nothing. You've just done nothing with it. So there's your metaphor.
So we started a fire and I threw my watch in.
So let's go through these, Mike, and let's see.
Let's go through them, Chris.
Let's see if we can figure out something useful to share from our own lives from the different categories. Now, I have some notes in here, but we'll randomly insert them.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking, what's this laziness principle? I think I know where you're going, but I'm going to let you describe it.
Yeah, so there are some people will think about this as 80-20 principle. I'm not sure it's truly an 80-20 principle thing, but when I was a kid, okay, I'll just tell you the story first, and then I'll tell you how it applies. So when I was in high school, so we're probably talking about 1990-ish, 1990, somewhere. I was halfway through high school. And I was going to high school in a suburb of Ottawa. And at the end of the day, there was no buses, like yellow school buses to take us home. It was public transportation, OC, Ottawa Carleton Transpo. The OC Transpo bus system took us home. So we left school, we crossed the street, and we waited for the bus. But guess what? Every other kid in the school did exactly the same thing.
Crowded bus stop.
So you've got a crowded bus stop. Buses can only fit so many people. They would send usually enough buses to kind of handle the traffic because they know when the school is let out, and they can't have people waiting for 2 hours to get on
and they
the bus.
don't own like 70 buses when they need
but still,
or something.
You might wait. I mean, you might wait 15 minutes for enough buses to come by to get home.
Life.
So here's what we did instead. Me and my friends, we would simply walk away from the direction of home. In other words, north for us. We would walk north to the next stop up the street. And there'd still be a bunch of kids waiting there because there was a crowd right outside the high school. Then one stop up, there'd be a smaller crowd. 2 stops up, even smaller crowd. And oh man, if you were ambitious enough to like walk 3 bus stops,
oh my goodness,
you were getting on a bus right away. No problem.
So you're saying you're applying the Pareto principle here because 80% of the kids were at the same freaking stop.
Yeah.
And so you got to contend with them. You know, this is interesting because I inadvertently did something similar, and I'm not dicking around here, surprisingly. But when we were teaching back in the days when we used to teach at Brennan Hall, University of Toronto in Charbonneau,
which we have no relationship
with. We have no relationship with them whatsoever. God be eternally praised. But having said that, I used to come home, Bay and Bloor.
Yes.
I would get on the subway at Bay Street. Why? Because it's one stop west of the big rush. And everybody would just come crowding in the crowdery, and I'd already have a seat. It was just, and pretend to be asleep, so then you don't have to give it up to anyone because they're, they need it.
Absolutely. This is so absolutely true. In fact, Mike, and that's where the laziness principle comes in. I'm not entirely sure that it maps perfectly into 80-20, but you can imagine it doesn't matter. These are models. These are useful tools. We're looking to give you guys some useful stuff to actually improve your life. So when I used to work downtown Toronto, back when I was a stock analyst, I was the closest station to get on the subway for me. Depending on where I was working at the time. Because I only worked in 2 different buildings my entire career, but it was either Union Station right downtown Toronto or King Street Station.
Oh yeah.
And I was coming up it's in Toronto. It's like a U shape, basically the subway system, and I was coming up the eastern side, the main one.
Thrust.
So if I got on Union or I got on at King, usually at the time of departure, it was very busy.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was to walk over to the one stop prior to Union, I can't even remember what it would be called now, Osgood Station or something?
No, Osgood's near where
one of them, Queen. I don't remember. Anyway, if I walked for 5 minutes to get over to a station prior to the subway making its U-turn and heading north again, nobody would be on it because most people had gotten off by that time. Usually the traffic is
nobody's on it.
Downtown going home at night or the morning, people getting into downtown. So that would be traffic. So 5 or 6 p.m., nobody's really getting on the subway.
So it's the difference between getting on and you're crammed in like sardines or getting on and it's zombie apocalypse. It's deserted.
Yeah, and it's not that you've got a seat, you're all comfortable.
Yeah.
The subway pulls into Union Station and people are crowding in the crowdery. And you just look at them and smile and
give them a friendly wave.
Yeah. It's the best, the friendly wave. So there is your 80-20 applied to the idea of laziness. That's where it came in. And I want to acknowledge this came in from
what's buzzing? There's something buzzing.
Oh, it's my iPhone in my pocket.
Yeah. I can hear it.
Yeah,
constantly.
it's right here. It's buzzing in my pocket.
Why does anyone have a buzzing phone in their pocket?
I don't know why. I'm gonna
and
you know what?
leave
I'm just
it
gonna
buzzing.
put it away.
Yeah,
and
well, put it in the other pocket.
Yeah, you'll be
I see what you've
obsessed
done.
with
You moved it to the front. Okay,
it's still
it just
going.
buzzed again. Who's
Here,
calling you?
I'm just gonna take
throw
this
it
phone,
away.
Just toss it in the sorry.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, so back to the principle.
So I got. This came into my memory because one of the email people on our email list responded and said, this is so interesting because I was listening to years ago a keynote presentation about the Pareto principle. And then when there was a break, everyone wanted to go use the bathroom. And almost everyone went to the closest bathroom. He went up the stairs and there was a washroom or bathroom or restroom, whatever you want to call it, depending on where you live. And almost nobody was using that one, right?
Yeah. So he didn't either. He thought, well, this was not popular. Probably something wrong with it. Go back and get in line. Yeah.
That's it.
Get in line at the urinal.
So you can apply this to, if you put a little bit more effort, this is our calls to action to help you out, is if you can find a way where you can just apply a little bit more effort than the majority, you'll get a much, much better result.
Be one of the 20%, not the 80%.
That was pretty much it for some of the prepared examples.
No, but that's good. Now, what about recreation? You've got this here as a major topic. I'm just trying to think. Let's apply Pareto principle to recreation.
Okay, so if I think about it, well, what is the question that you can ask yourself? Well, recreation time is obviously the whole point of recreation is to have a good time. It's purely about enjoyment, right?
Which is why my wife goes recreational shopping.
So if I was to think back and go, well, what are the things that I do for recreation that I truly enjoy the most? You can ask yourself that question. And the things, I think the ones that come to mind first are that 20% that give you the best enjoyment. Because if that's what we're shooting for here is enjoyment in this case.
Okay.
So for me, what comes to mind is volleyball. I really miss indoor volleyball at this time of year. It's still shut down right now here in Ontario. And I would love to do more volleyball.
Indoor. Now that's interesting because I knew you were a beach volleyball
because it's getting colder,
guy.
Well, I haven't been playing beach volleyball for a long, long time.
No,
but that if I check back to my 20s, well, then it would be beach volleyball. But if I check back to only like 2 years ago, it was indoor volleyball, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's a sport that I love, and I do it for recreation. I suppose you could say I do it for health and fitness too, but it's mostly I do it for fun.
Right.
And that's something I'd like to do more of, and I'd like to take the 80% of the recreation, whatever, not so, like recreation, what's recreation? Cutting my lawn? I don't think that
it's
counts.
Recreating, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Cutting your lawn is recreation? Probably not.
What are some recreation things that you've done that you would like to do more of? Because that's where the empowering question comes in.
Mm-hmm.
What is the 20% of things that you've done in your past for recreation, for enjoyment, that you really, really loved, and how can you do more of them?
So you've done the empowering question already?
What about, well, let's use it as we're discussing. So what about things like pickleball or playing guitar? You got into pickleball years ago.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, did
knees
you
can't do it with the knees. No, the stopping and starting.
You used to, what else did you do for recreation?
To me, jiu-jitsu was recreation.
Jiu-jitsu, yeah. That's the thing.
And backgammon for me, of course.
In fact, you could even 80-20 this and say, what are the 20% of combined things where a recreation is also health and fitness.
No, that's
or
interesting.
recreation is also generating you income. So it's your job and your recreation together, right?
Right. And according to Pareto, 20% of those will be more effective than the 80% that are merely time wasting.
So it's an interesting thing to think about. How can you...
I'm just wondering how this guy figured this out, Chris. Like it's
I don't know.
it's like it's just a weird
Well,
thing.
I bet you that there were only 20% of the little thoughts that he had that actually mattered anyway. So we can just dispense with the whole thing.
so
let's stay on recreation though for a moment.
Okay.
And I have no idea how long we've been recording. So
Well, I could tell. Yeah, because it's nearly noon. We're going for lunch.
Keep me on track here.
All right. No,
But
you're doing it
what
right.
other recreation things in your life would you say meet that 20% threshold? The 20% that just rocked and you'd love to do more of them?
Hiking. My wife and I love hiking.
Mhm.
Moderately rough terrain. I think it's an excellent workout, and it's something you can be outdoors and smell the trees and stuff in the air.
Yeah. And then alternatively, you can ask a different question that might be, what are the 20% of the things that you do that prevent you from having more recreational time?
Oh, well, probably talking about it, instead of
Talking
doing
about
it. Yeah.
Or it could be anything. Like in someone's life, maybe, well, I spend a lot of time, preparing for various projects in my work. My work gets in the way.
Right.
Or my I wrote down here relationships. Oh man,
but
trying to repair relationships or fixing problems is always getting in the way of me having more fun.
Vacuuming. Now, this is interesting because you're really showing the whole point here, the necessity of not, I wouldn't even say prioritization in this case so much as front end loading. That was a big principle with me. Front end loading.
Yes.
Like the stuff, even things that are unpleasant that you have to do. You find the 20% worst of them and front end load them. Just do those peckers.
I was just going to say, if you take the 20% of the tasks
Yeah.
that bother you the most,
Yeah.
that you spend 80% of your time ruminating about, I
God
really
help us.
don't want to cut the lawn, or I really don't want to rake the leaves, or whatever it is that you've got to do.
Yeah.
And you do those things because you really either have to that's weird. You
have to either them,
you either do them
or you pay
or
someone
you
else to do them.
eliminate them from your life, right? And
Yeah.
if you eliminate them, it can be a simple matter of, I'm not going to eliminate the lawn work because then we'll just have this crazy jungle in the backyard.
we did.
Somebody's got to do it. Maybe it doesn't have to be me, but in certain cases, you can just say, that's just
I'll
not
hire
going to get
someone,
done.
yeah.
It's not important to do it. No, I mean that,
No,
yes,
you're
you can
saying
hire someone,
sometimes
get someone else to do
you're
it.
not going to care about the
But
aesthetic.
sometimes you
let
can
it
just
go.
say, this doesn't need to be done at all.
Right.
It can be completely actually eliminated rather than outsourced or whatever.
No,
So
this is it.
I think it makes sense. What are the things that you're ruminating in your brain that stop you from having fun?
Now you're on a really good point because my wife and I have had this discussion over the last 3 months when we've been up north at our cabin in Minden, Ontario. And the whole thing, it seems that 20% of the time, our conversations were around 80% of the annoying people in our lives. Like
only 20% of the time.
yeah, but we were putting a really solid 20% of our time talking about 80% of stuff that didn't matter.
So if you simply get rid of that 80% of the stuff that doesn't matter from
What,
your
you mean
life,
eliminate
in some
the
way.
people?
Well, just like take on a new attitude towards them or something. But yeah, there, we were talking about recreation. I'm creeping over to your side.
You're creeping in the
creeping
creepery.
out. So
Look at the
come
red
back
dot
into
in the
frame.
monitor. You can tell.
If you were to think about what are the 20% of the things in your life that stop you from having more fun? Like I could absolutely tell you right now that spending 2 hours manicuring a lawn, cutting the lawn,
you say your nails.
whatever it is, that's not something that I get a lot of pleasure out of. And I could absolutely, I was saying it.
Well,
Saying
imagine
it
if you
so
had to
many
cut
times.
your lawn with nail scissors.
Yeah, there you go.
Much worse.
But there's definitely things in my life that I can think of that are getting in the way of me having more recreation time, more pleasure, more having fun, right?
Yeah.
So it's worth analyzing that and go, well, how can I either avoid it or get someone else to do it or just stop doing it or whatever it is? What in your life? What else? Where are the things that you're spending time? I know you have a ton of recreational time because you're just recreational.
Pretty much, yeah.
But is there anything that you can think of that you would like to cut out of your life or have someone else do?
These podcasts.
All right, there you go.
Cut these out.
In fact, this is
hanging out with you. Cut all of that. Just go up to the cabin.
This is the 20%. This meets that
Kidding.
20%. The 20. If we think of all the tasks that we do in our business,
Yep.
this is a 20% task that gives us probably 80% of our enjoyment, though.
Well,
All
yes.
the humor.
While we're talking about that, it begs the question immediately: what is the 20% of your body that you spend 80% of your time washing?
That's so weird.
I just came up
That
with
would
that.
be-
A comic genius.
That would be
Brilliant.
hands. That would be hands. In fact, I was going to tell a story
Don't go to
about.
in fact.
No, I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about.
It's so freaking ominous.
I've got a.
That would be hands.
I'm going to say. I'm
In
going to say it.
fact.
It's funny. So you know how I will use ground beef and make like my own hamburger mixture or whatever, and I do that with my bare hands, and then I spend all my freaking time cleaning
Cleansing.
up between
Cleaning in the cleanery.
tasks because I've got beef grease on my hands. So I use my elbow to turn on the hot water, put some soap on my hands, get the grease off, wash it. So yesterday I'm on a Zoom
That's
call.
pretty good.
I'm
Yeah.
on a Zoom call with a bunch of my friends.
Yeah,
Buddy
here's
wants
Ollie.
to come
Yeah,
up.
he's
Here,
here with
Ollie
his-
wants to come
here
up.
with his
we
Uncle
go.
Mike.
Yes. So I'm on a Zoom call and a bunch of my friends, we're chatting. It's a business related call. And one guy, he starts multitasking. And
Yeah.
I notice that he appears to be in his kitchen prepping some food. And I realize he takes his hands and they're in the frame now. And he's got those transparent disposable
Doctor gloves, yeah.
The little, no, not doctor, like, the ones you get at the grocery store or whatever. Just,
Yeah.
And I go, it's worth the price of admission right there. I've been wasting all this time cleaning my hands because I've been touching raw beef. I could just buy a box of those freaking gloves. There's your 80-20 principle applied to cooking.
I am not convinced that that's 80-20.
I don't know.
I just hear it as a bad choice.
I can
Stuffing your hands
I
into
can
beef.
eliminate 80% of the washing my hands time in the kitchen.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, it was a really funny thing because I go, oh, why am I not using those? I'm an idiot. And he was laughing so hard because it's like obvious. And he's
Identity
probably been
statement.
doing it for 20 years. Okay, let's move on from recreation. Where do you want to go next? I'll
He's
let you
talking about
choose.
shoving his hands in beef.
Yeah.
Putting on gloves. And he said, no, let's move away from recreation. That's just pointless. This, okay, with the beef and the gloves. Well, let's stop discussing high-power firearms.
Let's talk. I know that this is going to be a tough
Browning.
one for you as well, but let's talk about applying 80-20 to work.
Oh, God.
Now-
That's a 4-letter word.
Now, I don't mean to the MMH business.
Oh, okay,
because we
good.
do think about. Here's what I want to. This is the example I want to share.
Okay.
So, I applied the 80-20 principle back in around. Well, when I learned it through Tim Ferriss, was 2008-ish, right?
Yeah.
Within a year or so, I'd already decided, okay, I've got to get myself out of this business. Now, we spent a whole episode talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
Back in the 160s of
A long time
I
ago.
can't remember.
Yeah.
Sometime in the last year, we did a whole episode on how I engineered an exit from that career. We will not talk about that. We'll back up a little bit more and go, I used the 80-20 principle because I realized that, so my job was mostly to analyze stocks and to share that analysis with clients, people who were investing money. And they would talk to me and other people like me and get their, they would make a decision on what they wanted to do for their portfolios and stuff. Well, guess what? Those guys paid the firm money. And so I had to think about, well, who are the 20% of the clients that are the most important, so that as long as I pay them enough attention, I'm not going to be noticed if I start slacking off and spending time designing my exit, right?
That's very clever.
But also, and I didn't put this in, I sent this out as part of an email. I didn't include this detail. I also included the 20% of the clients that I enjoyed talking to the most. So if they were teeny weeny clients,
Yeah.
they were not valuable to the firm, but I got fun out of, like, I enjoyed talking to them.
Yeah.
They were on my list. So I had a short list that I used for about 2 years while I was in the, I don't give a crap. I almost swore. I don't care about this job anymore. I'm leaving.
That's where I am.
But I've got to make sure that I do the 20% of the client relationship work that gives me 80% of the value, so no one's going to notice. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
It's about people filtering, basically.
It does. It's really clever, actually. So who were these key clients and how much money were they giving you?
Well, yeah, it was
Asking for
it was
names,
actually a weird thing.
confidential
In that
Kidding.
it was never a direct thing. Like, I never really knew for sure, but you knew who were the big clients.
Yeah.
So anyway, we don't need to go through any names, but there's,
No,
in
I'm
the
kidding.
Toronto
It's a joke.
financial community, it's pretty obvious. It worked wonderfully though, because all of a sudden it's like I gave myself permission to go, I don't care about that one. If there was a 20% whale client that I didn't have much of a relationship at all with,
You
'cause
say
there's always
whale
yeah, like
client?
the big ones.
Wow.
The big whales, they are huge. Everyone needs to focus on these clients.
Yeah.
But if there were like one or two of them that I just never cracked and didn't have really a relationship because there was no chemistry between maybe the portfolio manager and my style of investing.
Yeah.
I just never called them. I stopped. I didn't care. And it gave me permission, like 80-20ing this thing was like having a huge list and going, you don't have to call these people, throw it away.
Now, when you scratched out the 80% of people who are sending you their money, but because it's an insignificant amount, a few million each, whatever, you're drawing a pen through it. Did you say, you bastards?
Yes, I did. I said, you bastards.
Wow.
I don't care. Yeah, it was wonderful. So what about you? Think about like.
Well, for me, the word bastard is probably the swear word I use 80% of the time. I don't know, Chris. I don't know. My life is so damn freeform.
You haven't had a job for a very long time, but think about what about when you were doing keynotes? When you were doing,
it's not a job.
When you were doing, I know it's not a job, but so you would deliver presentations to clients.
Yeah.
Were there certain clients that were repeat clients that you would constantly go back to, or maybe like? When you were doing stage hypnosis, there was a certain roster of venues that you would return to on a regular basis.
You're right. I would suspect that thinking back when I was doing stage shows, and at the peak, it was 164 one year. And that's, I'm sure 80% of the income came from 20% of all the clients.
Probably,
on the list.
yeah. And actually, and this is a bit, again, we're getting into the chemistry here between the work and what are we looking for here? And relationships, let's say. So you have a relationship with the people that hire you. So that counts as a relationship, but it has to be, in this case, revolving around work and making money. So you had a few gigs, like in Oshawa, there was that really nice theater, the one you did your retirement show at. There was the one on Consumers Drive. Was that one near Consumers Drive?
Yeah, what used to be called Class Act.
The Class Act Dinner Theater in Whitby. Used to go there a lot. There was the university circuit. You had back in the day when I was at university,
high schools
you
back
did
then.
all of them, but then you consolidated down. You would do Western, and you would do what else did
Wilfrid
you do?
Laurier.
Well, there was a few that you would
Carleton
do,
and U of Ottawa.
And so if you actually combined kind of your 80-20 around the ones that you didn't have to worry about getting on the phone with, like there was a lot of waste, right, in your life around, if there was a new client that wanted you to do a keynote, you'd go, I would just want to show up and do my keynote, but they want me to handhold them.
Oh, that's what agents are for.
Yeah, they would. Oh, can we just get Mike on the phone to go over what he's going to talk about? And you'd be like, no, that's it.
Well, Chris, we get the same thing, and it's not even Pareto, but you and I get the same thing. How many times we get a phone call through the website, through the dedicated phone number, and it's something like, oh, hi, I'm thinking of joining your academy. I need about a 20 to 30 minute phone call
to answer a bunch of questions.
Bye.
Like, well, that's why we have a free trial. Yeah. It's actually, there you go. The free trial, in fact, is 80-20ing support. It's like, you know what the best way for you to find out if this is a fit? Sign up. It costs you nothing for 14 days.
Yeah, that's right.
You can dive through. At that point, you'll have so many of your questions answered. We'll get fewer emails and fewer phone calls requesting help. And in fact, in customer support, it's much the same way. If you put together a good websites have good FAQs, frequently asked questions. Right. You answer if you make them up and they're fake FAQs designed to sell, they're not necessarily as useful. But if they're customer support FAQs that actually help, you save 80% of the phone calls and emails that come into a customer support line. Good point. Anyway, I want to get back to this part of your keynote / stage hypnosis former career, where isn't it true, Mike, that there were probably 20% of the clients that actually paid the biggest fee as well? They were they didn't negotiate down or anything.
No, my fee was pretty consistent.
Okay, but
But here's what I'm thinking.
You had to get to a point in your career where your fee was your fee and you didn't have to worry about. Well, back in the earlier days, you had clients that maybe, I'm only willing to pay X for a stage
Here's our budget.
Show.
Our budget is this.
Or like Michael C. Anthony, our best friend in the world, who is amazing at stage hypnosis. I bet that he still does a lot of shows, and I'm betting there's a wide variety of corporate gigs that pay a lot, and maybe, let's say, a high school gig is probably not going to pay very much. I don't think he does those at all.
He does.
He does? Okay.
He does.
So there's probably a wide range. It'd be interesting to have him comment on this. But if you decide to say, I'm just not going to serve that market anymore, consolidate on the 20% that gives you the best bang for your buck. You don't have to jump on the phone because they're repeat customers every year. You don't have to explain to them every single year what you're doing.
That's a good point. Yeah, and they've had a good experience, so they're willing to rebook. And you focus on that. I think I found one interesting, noteworthy exception to the Pareto principle, which is in our own lives. 100% of the time when we go to Colonel Bastard's for lunch, we get exactly the same thing.
That is totally true. Well, yeah, it's not 20% of the time we don't do a variety, but that's true. If you think about it, I bet you that there are 20% of the meals that you have at home, and with this, we'll shift to health and fitness. There are probably 20% of the meals that make up 80%, meal options that make up 80% of your, let's say, caloric intake.
Okay.
Or 80% of the time, you're eating the same 20% of the stuff. That's probably true.
That's a really common thing. People don't realize how much they eat the same thing.
Tim Ferriss points that out in the 4-Hour Body.
Oh, too constrictive. I couldn't do it. You do it already.
Do you remember? Yeah, the 4-Hour Body. So let's back up to way before Mike and I got into the detailed science and understanding of low carb eating and all of this stuff. That's really cool. We talk about this in our Wellness Academy, which is included in the personal growth membership. It's really cheap. MikeMandelHypnosis.com/PGM. Really low cost. Wellness Academy is included in there. And we're going to talk about this. So there's your sales pitch, right? Tim Ferriss said, hey, here's what he called it a slow carb diet. Basically, and this is not a racist thing, you're avoiding all the white stuff. Flour, rice, potato.
Now, the fact that you've said
I know.
Not a racist
it's hilarious.
thing, immediately turns it into a freaking racial issue. It's like as soon as someone says, I'm not a racist, but I'm just, here it comes. Here comes the big freaking racist comment.
So Tim Ferriss basically says, cut out the white stuff, the white flour and the white rice. Now that doesn't mean
potatoes,
you should eat brown rice.
No, you can have cauliflower.
Yeah, and look at you. 80% of the time, you're creeping out of the frame.
How are you creeping out? How am I creeping out?
There you go. Come back in.
I'm not. Look at the red line.
Anyway, slow carb diet was about eliminating the rices and the potatoes and the flours, basically all the stuff it's usually the white stuff because it's refined and bleached. That's why it is white. And he says, if you eliminate that and instead you're eating, vegetables and you're eating other things that define his slow carb diet. And people go, yeah, meat and eggs and fish and all that stuff, beans even were included in this. And that was all fine. And he goes, well, people will ask, isn't this so restrictive? And he'll respond by using Pareto principle. Go make a list of all the stuff that you eat in the average week. You're going to find that it's the same frickin' 3 meals, maybe, or 4 all the time. All I'm asking you to do is change them to something that's essentially
You're right. Now, my wife talks about she doesn't want to restrict things. She likes variety in her life. And she said, I couldn't do that. I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to restrict it. And I said, here's what you have for breakfast, my dear. 1 slice of organic whole grain toast cut into 1/3 and 2/3. The 1/3 is chunky organic peanut butter.
Oh,
no, it's jam. It's a good jam. And the other is organic chunky peanut butter and 1 cup of tea. That has been her breakfast for probably the last 40 years.
Yeah. And it's, by the way, it's worth stating here that the 80-20 principle, it's sort of like, you look at your hands right off the frame.
I know.
Look at you.
No, it's not.
The 80-20 principle is kind of like when we say the 7 ± 2 George Miller model. Right. Conscious bits of information that you can hold in your brain at any one point in time will sneak a little hypnosis in here, right? So
that's nice.
The idea being that there are only 7 ± 2 things that you can concentrate on at a time. So right now, if I only shift my attention to holding this pen in my hand, I'm probably not thinking about my feet in my shoes or the shirt on my back. Every time I cycle my attention, I displace something else that was in my attention. But it's not a true thing. It's not an actual 7 ± 2. We don't know. Maybe it's 8. Maybe it's 4. Maybe it's 2. Grief. Who cares? It's an idea that there are things that you can hold in your conscious awareness and everything else that you can't. And every time you pop something into your awareness, something else is probably popping out.
Yes.
And so in the same vein, the 80-20 principle isn't an exact, it's always 80-20. No, it could be 90-10. It could be freaking 96-4. Who cares what the actual split is? There is a split and it's majority, minority. So if you think about it from that perspective, yeah, like the majority of the time your wife was eating the same breakfast.
Right.
And so if it wasn't giving her results, you could change it. So this brings in now our health and fitness. I propose that probably 20% of the types of foods that you have in your kitchen, in your fridge, in your cupboards are probably responsible for 80%
of the weight gain.
The crap that you're, crappy eating. Yeah. So whether it's your potato chips that you have every day or your ice cream or your Coca-Cola or your beer. I drank a lot of beer over the summer.
Don't
I was
admitting it.
really enjoying it because there was a brewery nearby. They would do delivery.
We got into freaking IPAs. And
so anyway, I've cut that out completely. And guess what? That was my 20% of the crap causing me 80% of the disastrous outcomes. In my case, I was putting on some pounds. And it's gone, right? So cut it out. So if you identify that 20%, whether it be your potato chips or your bagels that you think are, it's okay, they're 12 grain bagels. No, it's still crap. Whether it's actual crap that most people would identify as crap, Oreo cookies or ice cream or whatever it is. Don't mean to pick on Oreo, all cookies. If you eliminate that, replace it with something else. Replace it with eggs, replace it with fish, replace it with meat, replace it with whatever you want that's good, that's real food, you will actually get a much, much better outcome. So my challenge to you, if you're listening or watching, is go through your kitchen and go, what are the 20% of the packaged products, because that's usually what they are, let's be honest, that are responsible for 80% of the junk results in my diet? Get rid of them and replace them with something else. What are the 20% of the foods? What are the other 20% of the foods that are really your only healthful options?
Yeah, and your allies. They'll help you trim down, lose a bloat, and so on. Yeah. And Chris, go ahead.
Are we running out of time?
Yes, we have to go. We have a special report.
All right. Special report. This just in from Hypno North in Meaford, Ontario. So over to our roving reporter, Pareto, who is currently on assignment live in Minden, Ontario.
Yeah, how are you tonight? Thanks again. So yesterday, Eddard told me he wants to build his entertainment career, and he asked me to be his manager in that, which sounded okay at first, because as far as I can tell, a manager does dick all, but takes about 20% of the fee. And Eddard's price was $500 for a 2-hour hypnosis show, which would net me a clear $100 to buy donuts and that. Anyway, Eddard said his uncle told him there was a camp near Minden, and he could probably do a show there for the kids. And Eddard's ride-em lawnmower probably wouldn't make it there and back. Since I'm his manager and all, I drove down to look at the place, which he said is called Camp Firewood. And it's set way back in the woods because he only saw the sign but not the camp. Well, I get there and find the sign, but it's not Camp Firewood. It's Campfire Wood, which is wood you buy to burn in your effing campfire. So I had to drive all the way back to Meaford and rage in that, and I was just fuming mad at Eddard and went to let the air out of his lawnmower tires, but some do-gooder had already done it and that. So I'm no longer Eddard's manager because he's a dick and that. And this is Pareto reporting on hypnosis news from Hypno North in Meaford, Ontario, currently on assignment in Minden. Thanks once again, and good night.
All right, thank you. I appreciate Pareto's updates. They're always really enjoyable, and the stories of Eddard. So let's talk about 80-20 when it comes to, we're going to finish up with two things, right? We said we're going to talk about money, and which is basically wealth and money and all that, and relationships. Why do we say relationships?
Because we can pronounce every single letter, and it makes it sound
because
more important.
We can.
That's how intelligent we are.
Nominalization, we say nominalization. And in the Ericksonian world of the principles of incorporation and utilization,
we call incorporation and utilization.
Just because we can.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about money. Money can be either saving money or making money, right? So we already talked. In fact, I think we can skip the whole making money part, which is that well, first of all, there's an 80-20 at your job where you got to spend a certain amount of time. If you're on salary, you're probably only doing about 20% of your time doing actual useful, productive things. That's interestingly what Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, is all about. I do urge you all to buy a copy of it or buy the Audible book or whatever. It's a remarkable book. It'll teach you how you can actually free up a lot of the crap time that you waste in your job and still get paid the same amount of money. So that's kind of an interesting thing when it comes to making money. Plus, we talked about you and your keynotes and your stage hypnosis. I think we've kind of handled that. So let's shift gears and think now about what about the spending side? So if you were to think about where do you spend, what is the 20% of activities that maybe are responsible for the most wasted money in your life? And if you evaluate those, you'll find there's a whole bunch extra that now you can save or invest or do whatever.
You're right, Chris. That's a very good point. And it's hard for me to gear down and be sensible for a moment, but I'm going to give it a damn good shot.
All right.
No.
Where do you waste?
Didn't work.
Where do you? Is there anything?
No, you know what it is?
Where you waste
with
the most
my wife
money?
and I, we've discovered it isn't the case now because we've gotten control of this, but it was buying things we didn't need,
Yes.
not using them, and then giving them away.
Yeah, and
that
it's
was a
like
huge
just
waste.
because I can, right? Because I have enough money, I have more money left over at the end of the month than sorry, that's the wrong way to say it. If I have X amount of money for the month and I spend only X minus something, I've got a little left. Well, okay, I can afford to buy that because I'm fine. Everything's fine. Well, if you're not thinking about that long term, where are you in your ultimate retirement and your wealth goals and all that, then yeah, you just justify, oh, it's okay, I can afford because I can afford it, right? I had a buddy, my good friend Alex. I used to grow up in Montreal, and he still lived there. And eventually, he went out. He was probably in his 20s, and he leased a really beautiful Audi vehicle. And this was way long ago, like probably 20-something years ago. And I think my dad asked him once, what's your lease payment on that? And he goes, $500. This was a huge amount of money for a guy at that age. My dad said, oh, wow, $500 a month. Why are you spending so much on that car? And his answer was, because I can. Now, he wasn't rich or anything like that. He had a job as an engineer. He was making enough money to pay for it. And it was definitely going to affect his ability to save. And he got a ton of enjoyment, though, out of it. So I'm not judging.
Hope so.
He loved that car.
Yeah.
But it was a huge amount of money. So think about where can you save. You used to
just buy stuff we didn't need and give it away.
Yeah, you buy stuff that you didn't need.
Yeah.
In fact, we'll go back to that. Remember we were talking about clothing earlier, and 80% of the clothing in your closet you probably never wear.
Oh, gosh.
What about 80-20 on quality of what you buy? So if I buy, well, actually, I can think of back when I worked in the investment community, I spent money on three in the end, really nice suits. Bespoke, custom-fitted suits.
I remember those.
And I just cycled through those 3 suits. They're still in my closet. I never wear them now.
A bit of an unfortunate quality to them.
But I never had to go buy another suit and think, oh, this is a crappy suit. It was
the advantage is
really
if you buy a
good
crappy
quality.
one, you can't give it away because nobody wants it.
And you'll not be happy when you're wearing the clothing. So when it comes to clothes or other things, what if you just buy good quality? Like if you go into your kitchen, do you ever look at something and go, oh, that's a really crappy spatula or frying pan? Or you buy good quality stuff
and it lasts.
and you never have to buy it again. So we're not going to go through a ton of examples like this, but I think you make the point. Where are the areas where you can cut down on wasteful spending or consolidate into higher quality spending that lasts you longer, such that, now we shift gears, so that you can take the extra money and do something with it. Now, I've been a big follower of the Motley Fool for a long time.
I know you have.
That's where I learned everything about investing, pretty much. And their principles took me right through my investment career, where I had to very much think short term. I didn't like that in the stock market. But anyway, now that I'm way out of that, I'm much back to their principles have always stuck with me.
Okay.
Long term, buy and hold good quality stocks, right? And then you can say the same thing about good quality stuff. Long term, buy and hold good quality stuff in your life. Good quality people in your life.
Well, okay, now that's a really important one. Let's get on to this whole relationship.
Yeah, so I'm going to wrap up the money part by saying, when you invest, 80% of your results are going to come from like the 20% of the investments that perform the best. It might even be a bigger split than that. So don't worry about everything being perfect, but definitely find ways you can cut out unnecessary spending and develop yourself a good long-term savings plan.
Did you say unnecessary?
Unnecessary
That's
spending.
Okay. It's just
come up with a long-term savings plan, buy quality stuff that you can hold, and just expect that 20% of the stuff you buy will be responsible for like 80% or more of your gains. On to relationships.
Well, no, I just want to say that saying unnecessary instead of unnecessary is about 20% shorter.
Yes.
So you've even applied it to that in a weird way. Now let's talk about the whole relationship thing. And one thing you pointed out here is about cutting. Well, we didn't say it exactly.
Firing people from your life.
People from your life. And we would talk about this a lot because not enough people freaking do it. And you have to get toxic people out of your life.
Yes.
And you'll discover that 20% of the toxic people in your life will cause you 80% of the grief you experience. Yeah.
And 20% of the really high quality people in your life are going to give you 80% of the pleasure in your life, right? So what if you simply go, who are these 20% that are causing me grief? How can I get them out of my life? We always say fire them from your life.
Don't ghost them.
You do not owe anybody your time.
No.
I mean, obviously, I hope that you're not making that decision about your spouse or your children or your parents or something like that.
There's responsibility here.
Yeah, there are relationships that you should work on repairing if they're bad rather than just out of my life.
Right. But there are going to be those relationships that really offer nothing compared to the toxicity they bring. When I say toxicity, I'm talking about things like, you know, overthinking, like they say things to throw you off and screw up your brain, and lying awake, ruminating about things that are ridiculous. People who are actively toxic, like one woman in my wife's life who isn't in it anymore. Like once we were out and she threw a glass of wine on her, claimed it, pretended to trip.
That's a toxic person.
And then she did it again in the kitchen. Oh, whoops.
Yeah.
And the third time she threw a cup of coffee on her, pretended to trip. I said, get her out of your life.
And if you know, if you watch the brilliant way with which I use all three think tank words here.
Oh, I gotta hear this. This will be a first.
Most people who have a normal job spend the 80% of their free time at work. So if your relationship with your, let's say, your employer, and you lack chemistry and it's causing you dis-ease in your life.
Yep.
Maybe, you see how brilliant that was?
I'm still with you.
Maybe that is a relationship to change, because you have a relationship with people at work. And this is that interconnection of the different areas of your life, right? You have your work life and you have your recreation and your relationships.
Yes.
Well, they blend sometimes. If you're not getting enjoyment when you're at work, maybe that's a time to say, hey, I'm going to change my job, which might be changing my employer, becoming self-employed, or just changing careers altogether, which people do these days, right? It's not like we have that, oh, we got a degree, we get a job, and we keep it for life. That doesn't happen anymore in this day and age. You are the CEO of your own life.
Yes, I like that.
You have responsibility, or capability, I should say, permission to fire people from your life, even if they're your boss. You're not fired.
Be careful. No,
you're not fired.
You're not fired either. You're not fired either.
So
God knows you should be sometimes.
Relationships. And we're talking about things like, okay, let's imagine a married person, okay? And most married people, when they argue, I bet you 80% of their arguments are about 20% of the topics. Could be, and money.
Money's the
could
typical
be
one.
money.
Kids,
could be
kids.
Yeah. Intimacy.
I was going to say bopping in the beater. Yeah.
It could be money, parenting, and intimacy.
Yeah.
Those are probably the three key areas that people have the biggest so-called fights, arguments, discussion. Well, if you could, and what are the fights usually about? I bet you if you recursively 80-20 that and go, okay, there's a thing that's related to parenting.
And it's going to be a recurrent theme.
There's probably only 20% of that topic
that's worth
you
talking
really
about.
are fundamentally disagreeing on.
Yeah.
And so you could use Mike's example of chunking up. What is this that we both want? Well, I want this and I want this. Okay.
What are they both examples
of? We want our kids to be well adjusted, let's say. Okay, great. How can we both agree on that and then now move back down the tree into the thing that we can agree on, the details of it, right?
Yes.
So find that big picture. So 20% of the problems that you have, 20% of those problems are probably the things you actually disagree on and can probably resolve with a little bit of creative thinking.
Right.
And then your life gets better.
Way better. And you know that 20% of podcasts probably go on too long.
So you want to end it? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
It's 11 o'clock.
Jeez, man, we've been going on for a while.
Anyway,
so we'll wrap it up
here. We're going to do the empowering question, and then I've got a quick MetaFIVE for you.
I want to challenge before you do the empowering question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If this is if you're watching this on YouTube, drop us a comment. Where did you get value from? Like, what did this inspire you to think of? 20% of the content probably gave you 80% of the value out of your epiphany moment. Drop it as a comment under this video. Or if you're listening, feel free to email us. You can hit us both by using info@MikeMandelHypnosis.com. I'd love to hear from you on what pieces of our discussion prompted something useful in your mind and went,
no, Chris, that's really good. Yeah, we want to hear how Pareto principle has worked for you, how you've discovered this. And also, I came up with one just now. I thought of you go see a comedian. 20% of their jokes will give you 80% of your laughs.
Yes, that's totally true.
Okay, give us the empowering question.
Okay. Empowering. Well, let me find it. Where is the darn empowering question?
It's in the document.
Oh, here we go.
Document.
What is the 20% in my life that's crucial to focus upon, and what will I do to take my attention from the 80% that isn't important at all?
Oh,
that's
okay,
right.
man.
And because it's the 80-20 principle, I'm only reading it once. I won't repeat the question this time.
Oh, nice. Now, I want to give you the quick MetaFIVE. This is a double MetaFIVE, Chris, because, Heather and I have just taken up hiking again.
Yes.
And a MetaFIVE is one better than a MetaFIVE.
Recreation.
So, yeah, for recreation, we like hiking. I got that amazing All Trails app.
Yes.
I paid for the premium version where you get all these like first aid things and the helicopter outers. I don't know what it is. Anyway, I paid for it. They've done a great job. You can go on the map, find any trail near you and walk it, and it'll tell you how far you've gone, even calories burned, which I don't really care about. But we started looking at some of the trails near us in Minden that we didn't know existed. We had two interesting events.
Oh,
So the first one, we were in the woods at Snowden Park. There's a trail that loops. And about a mile into the dense woods, guess what's there? A 1973 Lincoln Continental, just rotting, sitting in the frickin' woods. There's no road. It's rocky. There's mud. There's hills. We can't even imagine. I mean, but one guy posted on Facebook, he said, well, Mike, maybe there was a logging trail there. And my response was, yeah, when I used to be a logger, that's how we'd get in and out of the woods all the time, was in a Lincoln Continental. It was considered the most reliable vehicle in dense, rocky woods. Anyway, so we were so impressed finding this damn thing. I took pictures and so on. The next day, we went for another trail walk. And on the way in, we ran into a woman and a teenage boy. True story, serious.
Okay, I haven't heard this
You've been
one
waiting
yet.
to hear this.
I have not heard
The
this one
woman
yet.
had unusual curly hair and a strange hat. She was carrying one of those, woven baskets that elderly people carry into the woods in fairy tales.
Oh, man.
And the teenage boy was about 17 who was with her. And so I just didn't really look at him. I looked at her and I said hello, and she's going to the woods. And I noticed she had an accent. And being a charming man, I said to the elderly woman, what is that lovely accent you have? She said, oh, I'm from Austria. Now, I thought she was German. She was from Austria. So I immediately broke into some of my German. And she said, oh, we're going to do this and this. No, ich glaube nicht. And I could see the kids smile. They knew my German, which of course was flawless, although minor. Anyway, partway through this story, I'm thinking, Hitler was Austrian.
Oh.
Okay. Now, this is what came to mind, right? And there's a standing joke. It isn't true. But the standing joke is all Germans claim to be Austrians. Like Americans on vacation wear Canadian flags, that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and as I'm thinking this, sort of amused to myself, I look over. God is my witness. The kid looked exactly like Adolf Hitler.
Oh, that's just
He
freaky.
had the black hair combed exactly like this. He didn't have the little square mustache, only because he wasn't young enough to grow it
Thankfully.
yet. I thought, Chris, he's got to be trying to look like Hitler. Like Heather couldn't believe it either. Don't worry, this is picking it up. I'm talking loud. And I thought, I've got to get a picture of this for Chris. I have to get a picture of this kid. How do you do it? I didn't, because what am I going to say? Excuse me, would you mind if I took a photograph of you? Not the elderly woman going into the woods like a character from a fairy tale. I'd like to take a picture of you, young man, because you just look so much like Adolf Hitler. I can't resist. I never got the picture, and that's how it ended.
Let me give you some advice. Next time you're on a podcast,
Don't tell that story.
Everybody, this has been episode
itchy thumb.
188 of the Brain Software Podcast, and I'm sure that you got some glorious insights out of at least 20% of it, maybe no more than that. Thanks again, and good night.
Hey, Chris, I can make you laugh.
Uh-oh.
You don't know what's coming. I'm just
No.
going to say one sentence to you, and you're going to try not to
no,
laugh.
no.
Okay, are you ready?
Oh, I hate this.
Here we go.
Okay.
Try as long as you can not to move your face. Nothing.
Okay.
Say when you're ready.
Ready. I'm going to look at the camera.
You have to look at me.
Oh, damn.
Okay. Hey, Chris, Johnny Baboon called, and he wanted me to tell you that Philip Ridaway died last night screaming.
Such a weird
It's
line.
the pause before screaming. Oh, man.